All right, welcome to the Pangburn podcast. Most of you are thinking incorrectly about abortion. Everyone is actually pro-life, meaning that everyone, minus some crazies, generally want to see life succeed in existing. Everyone is actually pro-choice too, meaning that, minus some mumbling nutcases, we all want everyone to have as much freedom as possible to do what they wish with their own body, as long as they are not harming anyone else. Since I have now placed you all under one label, let's call it human, you can stop this partisan, political, religious, and dare I mention, idiotic battle. Doesn't that feel great? Do you feel untriggered? You should. There you go. Now we can actually engage. But of course, not at this moment, as I am talking and you are not. Number 1, listen and understand the science. A fetus is not capable of experiencing pain until 28 to 30 weeks after conception, when the nerves that carry painful stimuli to the brain have developed. So, we now know when suffering can occur. I think everyone can agree, minus that small group of crazies mentioned before, that we wish to mitigate suffering or maximize well-being for humanity. So when it comes to abortion, to mitigate suffering would be to not abort after 28 or maybe 26 weeks to be on the safe side. Number 2. Is a medically necessary termination of pregnancy after 26 weeks an abortion? I say no, and I believe this to be the crux of the issue. I believe that when most people are talking about an abortion, they are talking about when a woman decides to terminate the pregnancy, not when the pregnancy is terminated because of her safety or for some other medical reason. So we need a new term for this. Let's call it subation. I don't know why, but I like the sound of that as opposed to medically terminated or doctorally pulverized. Those just sound too action movie-esque to me. A subation would not be the mother's fault, but an unfortunate circumstance that could not be avoided medically. We all agree, minus crazy pants, that subations are very unfortunate and they can cause suffering to the unborn, because this is what we've discovered scientifically. So we now understand the science behind when the unborn can suffer, and we have sorted out the problem of quote-unquote late-term subations. Number 3. I'm a pregnant woman at week 28. Now I would like to have an abortion. Sorry, no. Under my worldview of maximizing well-being and mitigating suffering, you cannot have an abortion because you would be causing suffering or potentially causing suffering. I wouldn't call this human suffering, but I would call it fetal suffering. So before you start screaming, a woman has a right to do anything she wants with her own body, which I agree with, except for in this case, I ask you to carefully examine the evidence. You have 26 weeks to decide to keep the unborn or not. This is a great deal of time to get educated, examine your situation, and reflect on your life to be able to make the best decision for you. After that point, you are in a joint partnership in pursuit of well-being with the unborn human. To disagree with this would be to say that suffering is acceptable if a woman decides so. This would be in direct conflict with my worldview. And I truly believe most, if not everyone who understands the science, agrees with me. Number 4. A law must be in place to take away late-term abortion as an option for mothers, legally. After the 26-week mark, she cannot choose to abort. Only a subation, see number 2, would end the pregnancy. Agree to this and we eradicate the arguments aimed at late-term abortions being immoral. Number 5, get your religion out of the discussion. If your religion tells you that life begins at conception, science disagrees with you. Take some time to look under a microscope at a fertilized egg and use just a little bit of reason. A fertilized egg is not a living thing by scientific standards. Something with a heartbeat is not a living thing by scientific standards. Abortion is a scientific discussion. There is no room for superstition and gut feeling based on ancient texts. A fetus is not a baby, it is a fetus. If you don't like the word, you can call it the unborn, but stop calling it a baby. You sound like an idiot. Cough, Ben Shapiro, cough. So now that we all agree on these positions, the abortion argument is over. Finally, you can stop flinging shit at each other and start having sex with each other, knowing that you will be mutually supportive when it comes time to abort, if that time ever comes, as long as it is before 26 weeks. This has been the Pangburn Podcast, and let art and science inspire.